Very well. This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us David Basse, jazz radio host, vocalist, drummer, and a man of many jazz talents. How are you today, David?
Oh, very good. We've been driving for 7 hours and
Oh,
just arrived in Chicago, and we're here at the beautiful hotel. It's lovely, lovely. Good to see you.
good to see you too. Well, first of all, tell us about how you grew up in Kansas City and became so immersed in jazz. What connected you with jazz?
Well, I I grew up in Nebraska. I was
Nebraska?
born in San Jose, California. Yeah,
Oh,
San Jose, California is where I was born. My
uh,
parents grew up in Nebraska, so they moved back there when I was 4 years old. So
mhm.
I went to all my schooling in Madison County, Nebraska, in a rural school, a two-room schoolhouse with outdoor toilets.
Oh,
And then when I was about 14, my parents moved into a town of about 20,000 people, Columbus, Nebraska, and I went to high school there. And they had a music program. I had been playing the drums on my own, and I had taken 8 lessons from a drummer who passed through town, and then he left again. So I started playing, and I set the drums up left-handed. So I played left-handed. And by the time I got to high school, the band director said, "Oh, we can't have left-handed drummers." And I said, "Well, I have to play, and I'm left-handed." And so that's what happened. We made it happen. And when I was 19, actually, when I was 17, I started traveling around the country and went to Nashville, to Minneapolis, to Denver, to a lot of cities I thought were cool. And then I was traveling, and a band said, "You should go to Kansas City because what you do would be good in Kansas City." So when I was 19, I went there, and immediately I started playing music. I mean, I arrived at 6 in the morning. I went to a jam session at noon. I had a gig by 6 o'clock that night, and I was within 2 months, I played 9 different gigs a week. So I played 7 nights a week and 2 matinees in Kansas City. So it was just like it just really fit what I did. It fit what I had. And so this is now 5 decades later, and I'm still playing Kansas City music. And I fly the flag of Kansas City when I come to Chicago or wherever I go. And I do syndicated radio in several cities.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, not every 17-year-old goes traveling around the country, and not that many 17-year-olds are already playing music. So, what opportunities did you have, and what did you make of those opportunities to help you get where you were at 17?
I only had one goal. I had one goal of playing the drums and being the best drummer I could be. And so as when I graduated from high school, uh, my mother my mother thought I wanted to be an architect, and I actually had a scholarship to go to school for architecture. But so she got me a job at on the road crew. I would dig the tar off the back of the truck for the road, and I did that for about 2 weeks, and I really, really did not like it. And I went to a bar one night, and I went to a place where people were playing music, and they they just casually said, "Well, we're going to Colorado, and our drummer's not going to go. Would you like to go?" And I had set in with them and that kind of thing. It's mostly just from setting people, just being brave enough to get up and play with a band without knowing them. And so within 2 weeks after that, I was gone. So by June, the last of June of that year, I was in a band and I was traveling. So we went to Greeley, Colorado. We went to Denver. We played in Greeley. We played in a rodeo in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We went to Minneapolis. We played up in St. Paul, Minnesota, in a bar. It was just fun. You know, I played 6 nights a week, and the band leader said, "Do you sing?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Well, that's too bad because I'd give you more money if you sang." So he said, "I would suggest that you sing while you play the drums. We won't put a microphone on you, but just sing along, sing parts and that sort of thing." So that's how it happened. I started singing then, and just months later, somebody said, "Can you sing Going to Kansas City?" And I said, "I think I can sing that." So I sang this song before I'd ever been to Kansas City. And so it's just like serendipity, you know, basically. Mhm.
Did you ever take any voice lessons? Because I've seen you sing in some videos and you're pretty good.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Um, I have the great opportunity to observe other people singing,
How did you?
and I've had some, informal voice lessons, I guess, something like that. The pianist and vocalist Les McCann became a good friend of mine in the 1970s, and he suggested a vocal teacher. I bought a book of the teacher, and I listened to a tape of the his style and so on, and uh, but I never did go take any private lessons or anything like that. Um, I just do it the way I want to do. Anytime that anyone says, "Oh, you sound like this," or "You must really like this person or that person," then I try to change. You know, when I was younger, somebody would say, "Well, you sound like Tom Waits," and I said, "Oh, I don't know." So then I said, "Go, you sound like Joe Williams." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I want to sing like me. I want to sound like me." So I would try to avoid trying to sound like Joe Williams or trying to sound like Tom Waits, two people that I did emulate, when I was younger. But it's just uh, it felt good. Like Kurt Elling from here in Chicago is a good friend of mine, and he came to sing in Kansas City when uh, a long time ago, before he was famous and so on. And he said, "What about this band?" And I said, "That's my band." He said, "Who sings in the band?" I said, "I sing in the band." He said, "I've been listening to you forever." And I'm like, "Well, I'm listening to you, and I love your music." So we just, mutual admiration, basically. Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw you sing "Easy the Hard Way," and where did that song come from? I couldn't find it anywhere else.
It's written by a, a vocal, or not a vocal instructor, but a songwriting professor at UCLA in Los Angeles. So I
Oh,
lived in Los Angeles for a while,
uh-huh.
and I met Mark Winkler. And Mark has several record albums out. He wrote the lyrics, and he doesn't write music. He only writes lyrics. So I sing uh, 4 or 5 or maybe 6 of his songs. We just recorded a song called "Here's to Jazz," and it is available on Spotify. "Here's to Jazz," and it's a duet between Mark and I. So he has a vocal version of it. I have a vocal version of it, and the duet is there on Spotify as of 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay, well, I'll look into that. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's "Easy to Hard Way" is a beautiful song. Yeah. And it, kind of chronicles my life. I did things thinking I was doing the easy thing, by not taking lessons, by not going to school, by not following the crowd, uh, and that's the hard way. That's the hard way. Yeah, it's harder. And so in my, let's see, 2010, I enrolled in college.
Mhm.
And in 2018, I received my bachelor's degree in communications and in writing. So I'm now writing, editing a magazine, and writing stories, about this and that, and writing a few songs and so on. So yeah, easy the hard way. I resonate with that song, you know,
If
lyric of the song.
if Mark Winkler wrote the lyrics, then who wrote the music for
You
Easy?
know, I don't know. Easy the hard way. Yeah, I don't know because every song he writes different uh, with different different songwriters.
Oh.
So I don't remember which one is which. Actually, I just, like I say, I'm kind of serendipitous in my lifestyle. I have a jazz lifestyle.
Mhm. When you were growing up and then you played in those bands, you did you ever get the stage fright because you said that you felt that you had to play, but did you ever get the stage fright, or was your desire to play more important than any stage fright?
Um, you know, I still get very concerned about the music. I've come here to do a private show in Chicago this time, and I'm performing with Steve Million, the pianist here in Chicago, and a group of musicians that he's put together. I've recorded with Steve and I played with Steve, but it's been quite a while. And the other people of the band I've not met yet. So we're going to meet tomorrow in the afternoon, and we're going to play uh, tomorrow night for a party that's hundreds of people. And I'm excited about it. It's good. But yeah, I'm thinking of what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I really kind of just I just kind of give it up, give it up to the higher power that the music comes through me. I don't really do the music. The music is there already, and I'm a conduit
Mhm.
basically for the music. I transfer the music from the musical sphere to the people who are listening. So I like to play the drums and sing. And that's odd, but especially for a jazz musician. But I feel comfortable having the control over the rhythm and then where the song is going and what the story is of the song. That's the parts I like. The chord changes, all the other stuff, that's for other people to do. And the bass player is like the other conduit. The bass player is the conduit between the horns and the piano and the drums. And the bass player holds the time while the drummer embellishes the time and syncopates the time in a different way. So it's a natural thing to me. It just comes to me naturally because I've done it so long that it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, then I have to stop, right? But it feels good.
Maybe you being like a channel for the music, maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, because I've seen a lot of artists they're nervous in the beginning, but once they start performing it's like they become possessed by that performance, by the music, by the song, by the whole uh, entity of that music. And
Yeah.
I don't know, but you feel like that with you.
It's you know I don't know what to say to that. To me, it's just about the music. I'm a servant to the music. I'm a conduit for the music, and that's the way that it works for me. If I try to get too technical about it or try to claim it in any way, it seems to lose its potency. You know, yeah.
When you play the drums and then sing, there are not many musicians that could that do that, are there?
Well, it's because it was the gift from the first band leader I traveled with, who said, "If you sing, I'll pay you more money."
Yeah.
As simple as that. You know, I wouldn't have done it that way uh, if it didn't happen that way. You know, it just happened. Yeah.
Did you learn to breathe from the diaphragm and project and all those basics of vocalizing?
Those I learned from the Seth Riggs, the teacher that Les McCann told me about. His wife had studied with Seth Riggs, and so he's the one who encouraged me to buy the book, which had a CD in it that talked about exercises and so on. And I learned really a lot from that, and then also just maybe being in a master class with singers or just watching singers as they do what they do, and you know, seeing how they tell that story, and then trying to find my own story in the song. You know, singing the songs that I resonate with, and not doing songs that I just sing for. You know, I mean, some songs you can't sing, you know, some songs you can resonate with, and you bring up something, you know. A musician I worked with said, think about something, anything, could be your grandma, I don't care, just sing, you know. So it's like, have something focused for you know, right? Something that you resonate with the song.
What about that master class that you were talking about? Could you tell us a little bit more about that master class?
Those would be things that I attend in at IAJE, the International Association of Jazz Educators. And that was a program that ended in about 2008. Now there are Gen conferences around the country that are called the Jazz Education Network. There's also Jazz Connect at Jazz at Lincoln Center. So I had the good fortune of going to a master class with John Hendricks. And it was John Hendricks and Kurt Elling again. So this was in Toronto at the last IAJE. And then after the class, I got to talking with, you know, I of course said hello to Kurt, and then he introduced me to Mr. Hendricks, and then Mr. Hendricks says, "Hey, I got a gig down the hall. Why don't you walk with me and we can talk some more?" So I walked with him down the hall to where there was a big band set up, like a big band that was going to play some Basse music, and he got up and sang the song that Paul Gonzalez did chorus after chorus with, and I can't even think what it was, but he was talking in the master class about how, you know, how do you scat chorus after chorus after chorus after chorus and not be monotonous. You know, like Paul Gonzalez as a saxophone player with Ellington was so Paul Gonzalez was renowned for playing 38 choruses at the Newport Jazz Festival, which led Duke Ellington and his orchestra to get a Columbia record contract that they had the rest of Duke's life, you know. So for the next 16 years, they'd recorded and recorded. And now we have all those wonderful recordings because of that. So what John Hendricks did is he got up and he sang that. He did his own version of it, but he sang chorus after chorus of scat, and it was just so beautiful. And he was just, you know, it was just, as I say, he is the conduit for this beauty. The beauty comes in and the beauty comes out once you process it and make it your own, you know. So it reassured as a, you know, an idea. And then we went to a place somewhere with the vocalist Giacomo Gates, and then got to sing with John Hendricks. We just got up and played. It's set in with a trio, you know, up there in Toronto. So anyway, that's, you know, it's just like finding a mentor, asking them questions, hearing them, studying in your own way what they do, and then adopting what you think of that is good, that works for you, and then part of your process and part of what you do. So yeah.
Tell us a bit about your Jazz Ambassadors group.
What's that?
Tell us a bit about your Jazz Ambassadors organization.
Oh, the Jazz Ambassadors.
Yes.
That's an organization in Kansas City that started a little over 40 years ago. And we have a magazine called Jam Magazine, Jazz Ambassadors Magazine, JAM becomes Jam Magazine. And I, as I said, graduated from college in 2018 with a bachelor's in communication. So I had written a few stories for Jam. And in 2019, I was asked to be the editor of Jam Magazine. So I took over as editor during the pandemic, and we did a online magazine only. It's listed as Jam Magazine blog, or you can do kcjazzambassadors.org/blog, and you'll find all of the online magazines that we wrote and produced during the pandemic. So there's some very interesting stories there. And then at the last part of 2023, we went back into print with the magazine. So we printed about a half a dozen issues of it now, which are also online at kcjazzambassadors.org. And so you can also join the Jazz Ambassadors there, and you can find ways to get the magazines sent to your house, or anything like that. But it's a wonderful organization. I'm glad you asked about it. It doesn't get out of Kansas City that often.
Does do the Jazz Ambassadors work with you? I've found a lot of jazz musicians. They're trying to ease the next generation into the genre.
Do you know the name Jamie Abersol? Jamie Abersol. Jamie Abersol. He's a saxophonist, and he created a musical program called Music Must One back in the 1960s. And he's in his late 80s or early 90s now. And he has taught more jazz musicians to improvise than anyone else in the world. And so there's a musician in Kansas City who's I believe a doctorate of music. He's taught at many universities, named Mike Parkinson, and he's a trumpeter. And Mike is a close colleague of Jamie Abersol, and Jamie has now started a program in about 8 or 9 cities, I believe, and Kansas City is one of them. He's on the cover of one of the magazines this year, Jamie Abersol, and you can read all about the program there. But we do concerts, clinics, all year long, and they're funded by Jamie Abersol, and it's through the Jazz Ambassadors. It's a program that we co-opt with him, and so that's one of the things that we do. We're a volunteer organization that helps with jazz festivals, or helps other organizations do things in the city, and of course bringing up young people is part of it. And we have a John Booth Legacy Fund, which is for musicians who are indigent and maybe their family can't afford their burial, or they can't afford various things that happen late in life. That we offer resources to them for various things. So it's all about, the mission of the Jazz Ambassadors is to further the work of the local jazz musicians in Kansas City. That's the reason that the mayor, Mayor Dick Berkeley, started the organization in 1984.
So the mayor started the jazz
Yeah,
organization.
he
Oh,
called it the jazz. He called it the jazz, not jazz ambassadors. I can't remember what he called it, but it changed to jazz ambassadors not long after that. There's an attorney who plays the saxophone in Kansas City named Mike White. He was the first guy that did it, and he played with the great pianist Jay McShann and made records with him and so on. It was the Jazz Commission. That's what it was. It was the Jazz Commission, and then the board and the group of musicians said, we need to be jazz ambassadors for Kansas City. And so then that became more volunteer organization at that point, and it lost its city connection, basically.
you said that at that point it became it spread beyond Kansas City. Is that what you said?
It became what?
Did you we got a little buffering. Did you say that after that it spread beyond Kansas City, the program?
Beyond Kansas City?
Yes, there was a little buffering. It wasn't too clear what you said at the end.
Oh, yeah, it became a volunteer organization for the city. Yeah, so it has a you know, like all nonprofits, it has a board, and I am the current president of the board and the editor of the magazine for right now, hoping to shed myself of one of those responsibilities very soon. But it's, you know, it's an honor to be a part of it and be a part of the stream of music in Kansas City, because it's a very rich history. And I was so young when I got there that I have you know, a personal connection to a lot of the masters of the music. Jay McShann's, the pianist Jay McShann's daughter is part of the board of the organization. And I had the great honor of recording a song or two with Jay McShann before he passed away. And then, of course, he was the person who discovered Charlie Parker. And there was a trumpeter, Step Buddy Anderson, who came from Oklahoma. And Buddy Anderson was the other soloist in the Jay McShann Orchestra when Charlie Parker was a part of that band in the early 1940s and the late 1930s. So these are friends of mine that I spoke, you know, personally with about what it was like, you know, playing with Charlie Parker, and what it was like traveling on the road with Charlie Parker, and you know, how phenomenal was he? As people ask, well, how good was Charlie Parker? Well, he was the greatest, and you know, his music stands the test of time. You know, so there's a lot of things that have happened in Kansas City that are phenomenal. You know, Pat Metheny is another person, phenomenal. And he was 14, 15, 16 years old. He was a master of the music. And by the time he went to college, he became the instructor of the class before the end of the first semester at Berklee College of Music, at Miami, at the University of Miami. So we've had some wonderful things happen with the music in Kansas City.
So what was it like traveling with Charlie Parker?
Well, you know, he had an erratic lifestyle, as is written up, you know. Jay McShann is the one who tells the story about driving to Lincoln, Nebraska, where they stayed in a rooming house to play a gig. And as they were driving up, they hit a chicken with the car, and he Bird asked to stop the car so he could get out and grab the chicken. He grabbed the chicken and put it in a sack, and he took it to the rooming house. And the lady at the rooming house cooked the chicken for the band. And so they called him Yardbird after that, which was then translated down to Bird, like that. So Yeah. Is, you know, he's the study of Charlie Parker is a never-ending story because he lived such a rich life in his short time on this planet that there's still music coming out of Charlie Parker. There's still stories to be told about Charlie Parker. And it's legendary in a way. He's become a mythical character in jazz music. And like a colleague of mine, Chuck Haddix, just unearthed some music at Miss Baxter's house. And there was made a jam section at this guy's named Baxter's house, and that just came out on Verve Records a couple of weeks ago, and is available now. And I haven't even heard it yet, but it's brand new Charlie Parker music from the early 1950s. So that's a pretty amazing thing for a musician. You know, what if some kind of recording of, you know, Duke Ellington came out? You know, you found some mythical recording of Louis Armstrong playing with, somebody, Vic Spiderbeck, say, or something like that. You know, what would that be like? And you can, like, there's some younger colleagues of mine that I said, well, where did you get that music? So, oh, well, this is a rare tape of Charlie Parker playing at this place or that place in Ohio where I live, you know. So it's pretty interesting how his life, carried on. And there are hundreds and hundreds of jazz musicians who came from Kansas City over the years who did phenomenal things that just went by the wayside. So it's a great study.
Speaking of mythical characters, tell us a little bit more about being at the Basse's elbow.
Basse's elbow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So we had this band. So that's a very interesting question. We had this band in the 1980s, and there was an interesting mix of musicians. There was a man named Yano, which he said it is the term for wind, Yano. And so he played the percussion in the band. And then there was a pianist named Tim Whitmer and myself. And then there was a saxophonist named Ahmed Aladdin who came up to Chicago and was in a band that the great leader Louis Farrakhan started a band in the late 19th. Art Ensemble of Chicago were part of the band, and Ahmed Aladdin was a tenor player with them, and that's spelled AHMAD ALAADEEN. And so Aladdin came to the band, and he hadn't played in a nightclub setting for about 20 years at that time, because he had been playing in non-secular situations, in faith situations. And then, but the person who suggested him was another person of great faith named Laverne Barker, L-A capital V-E-R-N-E B-A-R-K-E-R. And at 18th and Vine in Kansas City by the Jazz Museum and the Mutual Musicians Foundation is a building called Barker Temple. And that was Laverne's dad, was the founder of Barker Temple. So it's about a 5-6 square block kind of thing, area of town. And they would go to these jam sessions, and then they'd walk down to the church and play the music at the church in the morning. So they jam all night and then come and play with the choir and so on. And Laverne Barker went to New York City as a bass player at the same time that Charlie Parker was there. So he stayed in the same hotel. They were friends, they were colleagues. And Laverne got a job at the Apollo Theater. So he played 10 years in the house band of the Apollo Theater. Count Basie needed a bass player coming through the Midwest, and Laverne took the job. And he said, we all asked him, well, how did you learn the music? What did you do? He said, I sat very close to Freddie Green. And he said, Freddie Green would go, like he wanted to change something, he would give him an elbow. He'd say, no, it's gonna end. You know, he was jabbing him with his elbow through the performances because he didn't know the music and there was no written music. And so hearing that story, the person who wrote the liner notes to the album, Ganat Wise is his name. And Ganat, he said, music learned at Basie's elbow and other joints, you know, and that was a nice liner note, you know, turn of a phrase in the liner note. And so that's how that came about. But lots of times, you know, that happens. I mean, like the gig I'm going to do tomorrow night, I'm going to have to lead the band by, you know, a nod, a movement here or there, softer, louder, you know, from the drums. And I'm confident that I will know how to do that somehow. It will happen, you know. That's how we do it, I think, isn't it?
So is there any rehearsal before the performance?
Nah, no rehearsals.
Is
No.
that the-
I've never played in Chicago where I had a rehearsal. I've always played with people I've never met before and had a really great time. So it's pretty ingrained at this point, I think.
And is that the way other jazz musicians play, or is it the way you play?
I think there are quite a few jazz, blues, funk musicians that play this way. Country musicians too. Country western musicians play. They have their own little turn of a phrase, or the way they look at you, or the way they, you know, they have their own system of reading music in Nashville too. A number system. They'll go 1, 5, 7, you know, and tell people what to play, how to play the music as it goes along. There's a lot that goes on a stage that the audience doesn't see or hear. And there are ways that we communicate that you just know the music, and you know, kind of get an idea of it. Some people don't do it that way. You know, some people are totally academic in their process.
Evidently, then every one of these performances, when artists come together to play without rehearsing, they're unique. They're just one of a kind. Do you know if your performance tomorrow at the private party will be recorded?
I would say not tomorrow night, but it might. We did bring our own sound person with us, and he's also going to be a DJ after we stop. So we're going to play early in the evening, and then later in the evening he will do a DJ setting. And he's a young man who works in radio with me, and so I'm confident he might record it. He's recorded most of the shows that we play, so he usually just starts a recorder knowing that something might come of it, you know.
What else are you doing in Chicago? Anything else?
We're going to eat very good food because it's always good in Chicago. My partner Valerie and I have just checked into a nice hotel, and we are excited to get out and taste some Chicago. Where should we go? You have any idea? Close by, Palmer House?
Well, there's I think Illuminati. Their pizza is very famous. I can't remember the address. And then
Illuminati?
yes, yes,
Uh-huh.
we had it before. It's really, really good.
Okay, we'll check it out.
Yeah, okay. We'll send you some prospective restaurants later. Uh, so how did what is it like syndicating a show? How did that start for you? Syndicating jazz.
Do you remember a broadcaster named Bob Parlocha?
Uh,
Jazz with Bob Parlocha?
what the station was he with?
Well,
Can't remember.
he was on several stations.
Okay.
He was syndicating his radio show from WFMT. Is that right? In Chicago, WFMT? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, believe it is. And they syndicated it as they do many radio shows. And we had it in Kansas City, and I also heard it in Toronto, and I heard it on a station in New York and Los Angeles. It was drive time in Los Angeles, but he was a jazz with Bob Parlocha. And that's I remember how he would say it. And he passed away in 2012, and I was working at a station in Kansas City then, and I asked if I could make programming for the overnight like he did, and I started doing that in 2013, and I had also heard about a process that was put together for Ira Glass for his radio show, and it's from a company called PRX, the Public Radio Exchange. PRX.org is where you would find them. And so I went to PRX.org and I purchased a membership, and I started syndicating my show to one station through PRX. And then what happened is other stations started coming to join in, basically to ask if I would syndicate to their station. And I put together the same format that had been at the station in Kansas City. And then when the pandemic started, and college campuses started to close and radio stations were shut down for a period of time, I started getting a lot of people asking me, a lot of radio stations asking if I could give them programming, and which I could easily. I just, they would just go to PRX and get the programming. And so, it's around 80 markets right now. And I like doing it. I reach quite a few people, and I'm happy to and humbled that it's working, and I hope to continue.
How long does it take you to create a show? If you could give us some insight.
Well, I do 15 hours a week, and
Yeah.
you do radio, and so you know how long it takes. I mean, if you do an 8 hour or if you do a 3 hour shift at a radio station, 3 or 4 hours, they will usually, a commercial station would pay you for 8 hours because you got to have time to put the music together. If you're putting the playlist together yourself, if you're researching what you're going to say and the content of the show, and you're putting together the program, it takes time, as you know. And so that's, I probably put a lot more time into it than I like to admit. Say so 3 hours a day, 5 days a week is a 40-hour a week job, and I probably have started making it in about 50 hours a week or a little more because I didn't know what I was doing so much. And of course, going back to what I said originally, I'm kind of serendipitous in my attitude about life. And so I was like, okay, I'll just do it, and do it, easy the hard way, basically. That's what I do. I do easy the hard way. And so now I've got it down to various things that I can do. I have around 7,000 hours of content ready to go whenever I need it. And I love making new programming. I, of course, receive music from people and requests from people through my website, which is davidbasse.com, davidbasse.com. And so I'm constantly receiving content for radio. And I love making radio because there's a story to tell in it, and there's a certain kind of style that comes from my history and who I am as a performer. So I glean it down to what I like, you know, and what I think people will like.
If you receive a lot of music, about how much are you able to use? Are you able to use 10% or more or less?
I use as much as I feel it'll will work. So I listen to everything, and I have a kind of a you know, a various theory, you know, I mean, because say you get say 25, you know, CDs come in the mail, you know, and you have to make a radio show. So you think, okay, well, here's one that looks pretty good. I like the cover. And you put it on, and you go, no, that doesn't work. And then, you know, you might get 7 or 8 out of it, you know, or something. And then you start thinking, well, hey, this is a saxophone player that sounds like Dexter Gordon. So I'll put a Dexter Gordon there, and then I'll have this one, and then I'll do this, and then it'll need something else. And then, you know, there's like a flow to it. And I look at that like I would make a set of music, you know, playing live. That's what I think about. I want to start with something that grabs people's attention. I want to have a very serene piece somewhere in the, you know, poignant kind of piece, a vocal maybe, or something that really tugs at your heartstrings kind of music. And I want something that is exciting and happening. And I always like a good beat, you know, because I come from Kansas City, and I like that beat, you know. So pretty soon I have an hour of music. Once I put the music together, then I put 3 to 6 hours together, and then I voice it. So I'll voice 1, I voice 2, I voice 3, I voice 3, and then I have them all like that, and then I mix them. So I mean, that's a lot of time. That takes time, and I'm constantly making it, you know, constantly making radio, constantly go to the mailbox and find some more stuff to work with, or get an email I had an email from a band in Austin, where I have a station in Austin now. And this guy said, I want to think I have some music for your show. And then he ended up saying, well, I'm going to send you like 5 different albums, you know. And I said, great, that's great. Send me all of them. And they said, well, my new one's just downloads. And I said, I'll play downloads too, you know, but I have to have them in a certain format and this and that, you know. So it's a job. It's a labor of love, basically. Yeah, that's my process. Yeah,
You must have quite a collection of music at home then.
yeah, it takes over after a while, right?
Yeah. So
There's this music everywhere.
can you tell us a little bit about your performance in Hong Kong?
Oh, my performance in Hong Kong. You've done some research. That was a long time ago. That was in 1997. Actually, I went there in 1995. You know, and that whole thing started, as I think about it, the whole thing started with a nightclub that I worked at, a restaurant in Beverly Hills called Lunaria. And there was the owner's name is Bernard Jacoby. And Bernard Jacoby was an excellent chef. And he also was the chef, the executive chef for the Peninsula Hotel that was built in Beverly Hills. And we had a conversation because I would play there at his restaurant, and then I would go there on the next Monday or something, and I would go in his office and he would write me a check, and I looked under his desk and there was no room for his feet. So I said, what is all that? What is all that stuff under your desk? And he says, that's the music that people send me. They want to play at this bar. And, he said, I just throw it in the box. I said, you don't listen to it? He says, no, I never listen to it. I just throw it in the box. And if if they come in and they ask for a gig personally, then I might give them a gig. Or if I know them, like Willie Bobo had played there, and a lot of cool musicians had played there. And so he said, hey, why don't you take all these CDs and stuff? Just take those boxes and go home with them and tell me if there's anything good in it. And so that's how it started. And then the Peninsula Hotel in Hong Kong, somehow he got that is the main hotel of the Peninsula chain. And he said, did you find a piano player in there that could go to Hong Kong for 9 months? And I said, yeah, there's this one and this one. And he said, well, get one that's willing to go for 9 months. And I booked a couple of piano players there at the hotel in 9 month stints. And then he said, we're going to have a 8 days at Christmas time, play from Christmas Eve to New Year's Eve, and play every night. And they want a jazz band and they want a mariachi band from Los Angeles. So we picked out a mariachi band, and then my band, a 6-piece band, went and played in 1995 for the Christmas season. And then the next year we went back and played the Christmas season, and we played in the Peninsula lobby for the New Year's Eve celebration. So it's like, it was where Winston Churchill, he gave the island to the Japanese at the beginning of World War II, a lot of the Peninsula Hotel. And he received it back from the Emperor of Japan at the end of World War II when they surrendered in the lobby of the Peninsula Hotel. So every New Year's Eve, every New Year's Day, they would have this thing, and they would have Winston Churchill's favorite champagne, Louis Roederer champagne. And so you come there in the morning and have champagne and orange juice, a mimosa. And so he said, you should come and play. This guy that had so we added another day and played there. And then they had the handover of Hong Kong to China on June 30th of 1997. And they asked if we'd come back again. And so it was a big honor. And people who were there for the handover, like if it was President Biden and Jill Biden couldn't go to the handover. She'd have to stay at the hotel. So we played in the lobby of the hotel to all the people who didn't get to go to the handover. And so they had this fabulous dinner and so on. And then the next day they had a 100-piece orchestra and a piece written by Yo-Yo Ma. And they played in another hotel. And we watched that as we were leaving. There was the British celebration on the eve of the 30th of June, and there was the Chinese celebration on the 30th in the daytime. And Yo-Yo Ma played this beautiful piece that he had written with a 100-piece symphony, and 7,000 people did karaoke around the bay. It was amazing. It was really amazing. We were taken by bus to the airport, and we watched it in the airport. And it was a phenomenal thing to be a part of, That's a long story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Did you perform at all during that time?
Yeah, we performed in the lobby again during the handover. So we were there, and it was a very expensive meal. And my aunt came from San Francisco, and various people came. There were a lot of news people there, reporters from the States, and people from all over the world that were a part of it. Some celebrities and so on. And it's known as the best hotel in the world. the Peninsula Hotel in Hong Kong. It's really something. So yeah, it was an honor. But we haven't been back since. But we did it then. We did 3 performances. We did 8 performances twice, or 7 performances the first time, 8 performances the next time, and then the 1 performance in the summer. Better in the winter. It's so hot and
Were you on the drums? Did you sing?
I sang. We had a 6-piece band and we had drummers. So Sherman Ferguson, you know that name, the drummer?
I think
Sherman
so.
Ferguson played the drums, and then Earl Palmer played the drums when we did the handover. And when we were there in Hong Kong, we had I think it might have been a telegram. I don't know. We had a notification that we were accepted to play for Bill Clinton's inaugural. So we went back to the States. That was in the early 1997. We played New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then we went back home, and then we went to Washington and played on the 20th, I think, of January for his second inaugural. So it was good. It was a good time for us. Yeah.
What was that like, playing at the inaugural?
Oh, top drawer, a lot of work, getting in, getting out, going through security, all that, setting up everything. Herbie Hancock was there. He was playing too. Various bands were playing. We heard great music. Yeah.
And no rehearsal.
And we played.
And no rehearsal as usual.
Well, that was a band that I played with a lot. And sometimes it was a mixture of my LA band and my Kansas City band, So yeah. But no time to rehearse most of the time. Yeah.
Well, David, Basse, if our listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go?
Oh, my website, I guess, davidbasse.com.
And what channels should they tune into to hear your syndicated radio show?
There's a page on the site that's called Find Your Station. So you go to the site and find your station, and you scroll down, and all the stations are listed there, and there's a direct link to the station. So look at the time and see who's on the air at that time, and click on it, and there I am. That's the best way.
Is that the prx.com?
No, on my site is the best place, davidbasse.com.
Got it.
Yeah, PRX is a little bit harder for a individual user. It's more of a site that a radio station would go to to get the programming, to upload the programming. Yeah.
So they could find our listeners could find you at davidbasse.com, and then go to find your station, and there they could find your radio show.
Right, it's right there, and there's always 3 hours of new programming each week on the homepage. So you can listen to 3 hours this week, and then next week listen to the same thing, and you'll get new music, different music, and from the week that I've created. And then if you scroll down a little bit, there's a bunch of interviews. We just did one with Karen Allison, the vocalist Karen Allison. And so there's a lot of interviews. There's a lot of different things on the site that you can listen to and enjoy. And you can send Dave a message. Ask Dave, click on that. And as you've heard, I like to talk. So I'll send you a message back.
Wonderful. David Basse, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today, and much luck to you. Continue the good work.
Thank you very much, and the best to the wizard.
Thank you.
Thank you.